can't tell you the number of times that someone said, I have an idea. We need to do X or we need to do Y or what have you. And we rally the troops and we put all this human effort toward executing a half-baked plan to do X or Y, whatever the idea was. And we never really spent time talking about what's the problem we're trying to solve or the opportunity we're trying to seize. And so a good quality innovation process begins with asking that question or those two questions. What's the problem we're trying to solve? What's the opportunity we're trying to seize?
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Jeff Standridge. Jeff is MD of Innovation Junkie and also of Cadron Capital Partners. So Jeff, welcome, sir.
Fred, thank you so much. It's such a great pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, I'm really interested in the stuff that you do, particularly the innovation bit. So I want to kind of have a little bit of play with that. But can I just kick off with kind of almost like maybe a basic question?
Sure.
What is innovation?
Great question. Very basic question, but a good question nonetheless.
Thank you.
So I define innovation as, first of all, planned change. And what I mean by that is it doesn't happen by accident. So planned change, which some synonyms you can use are creativity, ideation, invention. So planned change normally directed at making things easier to do, better to do, more efficient to do than what we've done in the past or even what we're doing in the present, or that substantially reduce the transaction cost of doing business. So it's really it's a process to do things better, more effectively, more efficiently, or at reduced cost.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I talk about collaboration. Collaborative selling is my thing. But again, when you put in the synonyms, creativity, ideation, invention, that's part and parcel of it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That's what I think a good salesperson should be doing.
I completely agree with you. We should always be looking to figure out how to prospect better, how to close deals better, how to manage the non-selling stuff so that we can have more time in front of customers or clients or prospects.
And in that time, use the innovation skills we have to help them think about stuff as well. So, I mean, salespeople should be all over innovation for themselves, for their customers.
In fact, I even suggest for salespeople that every interaction they have with a customer should have some form of ideation coming out of that. They should be giving them value every time they come into have the opportunity to interact with them. And ideation is a great way to do that.
I think that's probably more important than ever before because information's out there. If you're just like a walking website, a website's right. better being a website than you are.
That's right.
You're not bringing a thing to the party. Why should someone talk to you? But if you're doing stuff that they think, oh, that was such a good meeting, you've really helped me think, then that's got to be better, hasn't it? So ideation is part and parcel of that.
It is very much so. And bringing your customers into the process where you can help them ideate in a manner that will change their business for the better, just is additional value add on top.
So again, another simple question where I expect there's a lot to the answer. What's ideation then? I mean, how can you sort of give us I have an idea, but I don't even know if I'm right about this.
Well, so let's back up and say, what's the process, right? Because it's, I spent a number of years in the corporate world, and I can't tell you the number of times that someone said, I have an idea. We need to do X or we need to do Y or what have you. And we rally the troops and we put all this human effort toward executing a half-baked plan to do X or Y, whatever the idea was. And we never really spent time talking about what's the problem we're trying to solve or the opportunity we're trying to seize. And so a good quality innovation process begins with asking that question, or those two questions. What's the problem we're trying to solve? What's the opportunity we're trying to seize? And if we're not really sure, then we start, my response is, tell me what you're seeing or what you're experiencing that leads you to believe we need to do something different than we're doing today. And when they begin to start explaining that observation or that experience, they're either going to be using past tense words that are pain oriented, not enough of a good thing. That's a problem we're going to try to solve. Or they're using future oriented, gain oriented words. Or the first one was too much of a bad thing. The second one is not enough of a good thing. Right. And so as they begin to explain those things, and you listen to the words and you listen to what they're actually talking about, you can help them pinpoint, well, what I'm hearing you say is, here is the problem you're trying to solve. Is that fair? Or you're really trying to pursue a new opportunity, and help them quantify that to some degree. Then you can begin setting about innovating around that or ideating around that.
So it's a sort of thinking through that then, what you're saying is that often people are too quick to jump into solution mode, too quick to start doing stuff, too quick to talk about their product, their service, all that, and never really got to that kind of pain or gain, or pain and gain if you can, even better.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they fall in love with their solution, or they fall in love with their idea, versus falling in love with the problem they're trying to solve or the opportunity they're trying to achieve. Because here's the deal. Once they define the problem, then they really need to go, or define the opportunity. They need to then go and do some quantitative assessment of that. Is it going to have enough of an impact? Is whatever solution we come up with, is solving this problem or seizing this opportunity going to impact enough people to be worth the effort? Because again, it's an ROI investment at that point.
Yeah, it's a problem. I mean, we use that word very broadly, don't we? Is it a little annoyance, or is
That's right.
no, this is a pretty big deal that is becoming something of a showstopper?
That's right.
I could probably live with an annoyance, but a showstopper, I can't.
What I have found is that, I work with a number of startup companies, and a lot of startup companies ultimately end up failing. One of the major reasons that they fail is they create they create a solution that no one wants, right? Or they create a product that no one wants. They solve a problem that people aren't willing to pay to have solved, or not enough people are willing to pay to solve it at the price point required for it to be a profitable ongoing concern. And so they have to really think through that process. Is the problem real? Does it impact enough people? Is our solution, can we deliver a solution in a manner that will solve it profitably? And can we create a viable business model around it?
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes the people is an interesting one on that. So I mean, this process, this level of thinking, we can use it. So as you said, as a startup, so building our business around something, as a salesperson, to see whether we have business opportunities to work with people. And there's some pretty cool ways, aren't there, in which we can dig down and start to understand problems better, aren't they? I mean, I could think of a good half dozen techniques. Do you have a favorite for doing that?
Yeah. So we like to take groups offsite somewhere, and we will just brainstorm with them around one question, and we call it the game changer question, right? What one problem, if you solved it, or one opportunity, if you seized it, would be a complete and total game changer for your organization? And we just start there and have them start brainstorming the one thing, if they solved it, would change the game for them. And so we generate a list, sticky notes or Post-it notes on a wall, and then we go through a process of down selecting. We describe all of them, define all of them, and we're very careful to point out the ones that are actually solutions masquerading themselves as problems or opportunity statements, right? Say, oh, well, yeah, we need a new blank. No, that's a solution. I said, what's the problem? Why do you feel like you need a new blank, right?
Yeah.
And so make sure that our board is filled with nothing but problem statements and opportunity statements. Do a bit of down selecting, multi-voting, whatever you want to call it, and then pick 2 or 3 of them, form some teams around them, and let them spend the day just fleshing through them.
Brilliant. And is that where you introduce other techniques like I go through little peaks of favorites. For the moment, I've just got a thing for 5 whys. It's been around forever, hasn't it? But
Absolutely.
I've just found that actually keep asking why.
Keep
and
asking.
You get to the thing at the bottom.
That's right. Keep asking why, and ultimately you'll get there.
Yeah. And then, that's the real problem that we're actually solving. Not the one on the surface level that we thought. It's this thing that's.
Yeah. And it's real interesting to watch the dynamics of the group. And then after they've hashed it about for, 15, 20 minutes, then someone will say, well, it seems to me that what the real problem is blank. And when someone says it and it immediately resonates, people's eyes light up, the light bulb comes on, whatever and it's like, oh yeah, you're right. That is it.
Yeah. I love that. The other one that I'm reading into a lot more is jobs to be done.
Jobs to be done.
I like that, and then the one that you got to struggle with. And if you can predict that for customers and say, hey, look, you got these jobs to be done, they might not even know.
That's right.
And then here's one that you're probably struggling on. And then this is stuff we can talk to you about. You're in a strong position there.
Customers, in my experience, in a sales setting, that they will argue with your words and your numbers, but they won't argue with their own. And so if you can help them to articulate, here are the issues that I'm having, and you can play those back to them, and help them frame up their words, but help them frame them up as problem or opportunity statements. That's one thing that's very, very valuable of gaining the trust of that customer. And then when it comes time to quantify the problem or to quantify the opportunity, to have them run the math on the back of an envelope or what have you. Again, they'll argue with your numbers, but they won't argue with their own. And so getting them to do that for themselves in that discussion generally leads to a much more winnable outcome.
Yeah, it's interesting. I see these as the ABCs of selling now. No, not the old always be closing, but customers are more advanced. They're further down the line themselves. They try to sort it out because all that information's out there.
Yeah.
And so they're being more biased towards the way that they figured out that they're going to do this.
That's right.
So they're going to argue with you. But it's weird though, because they're also more confused. Because it's not a simple world anymore. So we've got this kind of paradox going on, and we need to manage that carefully to get into that. Now we're collaborating. Now we're having a useful conversation together.
Yeah. I find that running this innovation sprint that I just described is a great discovery process for selling, right? So you get them to buy into a half-day session, workshop, what have you, paid or unpaid, to run an innovation sprint. It adds so much value to them, and generally through that innovation sprint, there's a nugget or two of something that you can help them solve as a good consultative salesperson.
And there we have it, a good consultative salesperson, where we need to kind of build that reputation. We need to sort of gain that, it's a personal brand, I suppose, if we have to use that word, but you are known for being able to do that. That's when people will want to talk to you because
that's right.
Of how you talk about things, how you position yourself, and the reputation, I'll go back to that word, that you develop in your world, in your industry.
Yeah. Customers entertain a salesperson for one of 2 reasons: to help them eliminate a pain or to help them achieve a gain. And if we don't do a good job of getting them to articulate that pain or that gain, that desired gain or that pain they need to eliminate, then our solution is nebulous and abstract, and we can't demonstrate value. But if we can get them to articulate very, very clearly the pain they're trying to eliminate or the gain they're trying to accomplish, and we can physically help them to do either of those, then we're much more able to substantiate the benefit we brought to the table to them.
Yeah. And it is a shift, isn't it? Because before, a salesperson could dine out just on having information because that was what customer needed. And
that's right.
Hey, I've got it all. You have to talk to me.
Right.
It's all there now. And so if you're not bringing it, I know I'm repetitive here, but so many salespeople seem to be stuck in that, well, no, I'm working this way. They need to speak to me because they need this stuff off me. It's like, well, they don't, it's there. So salespeople seem to be struggling to innovate themselves and make these shifts.
Absolutely.
So I'm interested in what gets in the way of innovation? What blocks us from doing it?
What goes on between our ears?
Okay.
And just the habits and the habits. We all fall in love with our own ideas, our biases. You brought that up a couple of moments ago. Our own biases. We read all of that information that's out there, and we read it through our own filters, through our own mental processes, and we place our own biases on it. And that stuff tends to get in the way.
I mean, my take on this, my own bias, my perception is that, well, it's from quite a lot of study actually, is that companies don't help here. They fill salespeople's brains full of propaganda about the company, the product, the service, all the brilliant stuff they do, the history, what are they going to do? That's what they've been trained in. It's natural to think that should be what I should go and talk about. It's not. Yeah.
I like to use the words of Brian Tracy, who prolific author here in the U.S. on sales and success and what have you. And one of the big ideas that he put forward was never talk about your product, your solution, or your company until your client has demonstrated interest in the value you can bring them or the benefits you can deliver. And so, when I was a young sales guy leading a sales team and actually selling myself, and I heard that, I stepped back and I asked myself, what's my opening line when I engage with someone via a sales call or an email or whatever? And it came to me that we all over my clients. I we all over my clients. We do this and we do that and we do this and we do this and we do this. And so I say, stop weeing all over your clients.
Yeah, no, I use the similar expression actually. Yeah, we everywhere. It's it's like a bit of a childish expression actually, but it's childish behavior to be so self-centered and to make it all about you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that's funny. That's funny. So okay, so maybe people are listening and thinking, okay, yeah, I can see this. I can, okay, I'm with you guys. I'm with you, Jeff, with you, Fred. What things can people do then? What practical things? People love practical stuff on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What can they do to start to make those shifts towards being more useful?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think they need to step back and look at their selling process, and really ask themselves, am I consulting with my client, or am I trying to peddle a piece of software or peddle a product? And if I sell out of sequence, ultimately that's going to kill the sale, right? If I don't understand what my selling process is, and I don't do a good job of active inquiry to understand what the problem is they're trying to solve, what the opportunity is they're trying to seize. If I don't do a good job of really getting that out and articulating that and then playing it back to the customer, well, this is what I'm hearing. Did I hit the mark there? And let the customer either green light it or red light it. No, I don't think that's it. Well, can you articulate for me what it is? So it's really more conversational. Stop going in with a bias that your customer needs your product or service, because good salespeople will walk away from a deal where they don't really think that their product or service will add value. And oh, by the way, by walking away from that deal, they'll generate more goodwill with that client, who will guide them down the path or bring them back in when they do need them, or will guide them to someone who does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Massive trust builder. Trust builder. Having the other party's best interest at heart. And this is what you're actually trying to do. I've worked with you to understand this. It's not us actually at the moment. You should be looking at this first. Mm-hmm. I know some great people that you can talk to. some salespeople really struggle with that concept. Really
One of
struggle.
and we all build crutches around ourselves to help us do the right thing, right, in that regard. And so one of the crutches I built around myself was to say very early in a conversation with a prospect, "Hey, look, I'm not going to try to sell you anything today. All I want to do is let's talk about some of the challenges you're having. Let's talk about some of the problems you're experiencing, some of the opportunities you don't feel like you've been able to bring to reality. And if we feel that, and I'll give you some ideas for addressing those. If we feel that there's a valuable enough opportunity for us to work together, then I'll bring that to you. If I don't, I'll tell you that too."
Yeah. Yeah. I love that expression. I'm just looking down at my notes here. Selling out of sequence. Yeah. And you see people just getting it so wrong. And there is a time, there absolutely is a time that you do talk about yourself. You do talk about
Sure.
what it is you can do. You have to go to presentation mode at some stage, but many get it wrong and they try to do it too early.
Yeah. If we close at the right time, under the right circumstances, it almost happens itself. We have to start with a relationship, right? And we really have to understand. Start with a relationship. Then we have to assess and understand what it is they're trying to accomplish. Then we have to lay out a solution that ties back specifically to the things that they wanted to accomplish. And then we end by asking for the business if in fact it makes sense. And by the way, that spells sale, SALE. You got it like that?
I
Um,
do. Oh, I love
yeah,
an
yeah,
acronym, but particularly one that the acronym indicates that, oh yeah,
yeah,
I like
yeah.
that a lot.
Um, and when we do that and we follow up, whatever our selling process is, and we lay out a solution that maps back to the issues that they've expressed, then asking for the sale is very, very common. But here's what happens. I also see this where a salesperson will get the customer to articulate the issues that they're trying to solve, or the opportunities they're trying to create, and they'll have those very clearly packaged during the discovery process. And then they'll go back to the office and put together a proposal that's a canned proposal that leaves the customer to connect the dots between your solution and what I said I want.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And so sometimes innovating is not setting the world on fire. It's just doing that which is logical.
yeah.
You know, Occam's razor said that when you have a choice between solutions or between options, usually it's the simplest one.
Yeah. Oh, no, I always go simplest.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, doesn't mean I haven't fallen in the trap where I've proposed incredibly complicated things, and I probably still will
yeah.
from time
Of
to
course.
time. But I, we have to earn the right, though, don't we? We have to earn the
Mhm.
right to get into that discussion
That's
about
right.
them to then end up with the solution. And so we have to kind of indicate a little bit of this is a potential problem you've got, or this is something you might be trying to do. So we have to give a little to
Mhm.
get into that. And I guess that's where there's quite a skill, is it's enough to be interesting, but
That's right.
not too much that you go into full on tell mode. Because
Right.
once we start talking about ourselves, we don't shut up.
Yeah, and I like to cast it in the vein of experiences. Well, you know what? This is interesting. A challenge you have here. I've seen one of my clients solve it this way, or I've helped one of my clients solve it this way. Here are a couple of ideas for things that you could do. But generally, those ideas are you're piquing their interest, so to
Yeah.
speak, versus jumping into full on tell mode, as you say.
Yeah. And I think I chatted to a sales guy the other day who had almost accidentally ended up as a vertical specialist. He's a real expert in a particular area because he did such a good job with the client. He really understood what they had to do. He then realized that other people might have similar problems. And he's now talking about one particular thing. It's not a particularly sexy industry,
Hmm.
but he just knows all about it. The commissions
Yeah,
he's getting now are pretty sexy because
yeah, of course.
he gets them and he knows what the problems are. He can dangle that, I think you might have this going on. Oh, yeah. He's then skilled enough to talk around it, and then ends up with a solution which these guys have got packaged and will pretty much work for all of them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Understanding an industry is extremely valuable, right? That's he earned the right. He
yeah,
he's earned the right to get into a lot of those conversations. I like to say, you want to enter the conversation that the customer's already having in their head.
Yes.
And so if he understands the conversations that those industry people are having, and he can enter that conversation that's already going on, then he begins to, he enters as a participant versus someone trying to crash their way through the door, so to speak.
Yeah, this is the conversation I want you to have in your head. Well, I can't. I'm
Mhm.
already having one.
Yeah.
I don't have one conversation in my head at once. Not
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, is it? But, all right. Yeah, it's like your mind reading. You absolutely nailed what it is that I am getting frustrated, annoyed, panicky about. Yeah, let's talk more. But that's the sales skill, isn't it?
It is, it is. And then when you go and build a solution around that, don't leave it to the client to connect the dots between your solution and their pains. Do it for them, even if that means you have to rewrite your stock standard canned proposal. Make sure that your proposal has your proposal process in a larger organization has the flexibility to be able to talk specifically about the customer's pains in their own words.
In their own words. That's key.
That's the key.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If they see that if they see their own words, I said this to you and you've come back with a solution specifically designed to solve that. Again, it's part of that trust building. And when I only see jargon, industry jargon in the proposal, there's no emotional connection to what you're proposing to me.
Yeah. It's funny actually, because people say, never ever use jargon. And I'm like, well, no, I disagree with that. If they've used jargon, jargon it back to them big time, right?
Big
Hey,
time.
this guy's like us. He uses the same words that we do. Yeah.
Mhm.
Much
Yeah.
listen carefully.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. Exactly right.
Oh, brilliant. So, okay. So I'm just thinking about innovation.
Uh-huh.
And that is what we as salespeople are trying to do. We are trying to help our customers innovate. We're helping them get their heads around problems and start to think. We sometimes have got our own problems in adapting to do. we get in our own way because of
We do.
how we're thinking and not adopting better, more modern ways of working, which we now understand. It's work, like the work that you're doing yourself. What else could you say to people to help them to do this better? Are there any other kind of bits that I've not asked you about that I should have done?
Yeah. Yeah. So, as we said the first time was kind of really examine your habits and your biases and your processes and ask yourself the question, number one, where might I be getting in my own way? Number two, how could I change my process to really focus more on my customer? And then number three is if if you don't have a logical selling process where you can track your success at every stage of the process, then how do you know where you need to improve? So, for instance, if in my selling process, I have a prospecting process where I'm not trying to sell them a solution. I'm just trying to sell them on a phone call or a conversation or a discovery meeting, right? And so what's my close rate? How many people do I have to talk to in order to get a face-to-face or a virtual or a telephone meeting? And that's one conversion rate I need to track. And if it's abysmal, then maybe I need to do something and maybe I need to innovate around those initial conversations to try to produce that meeting. Then once I go through the discovery process, the next thing I'm selling for is the right to give them a proposal to solve the problems that we've articulated or to take advantage of the issues they're experiencing or the opportunities they're trying to seize. And so what's my if I do a good job in discovery and establish myself as a consultant versus a salesperson rather, that's probably going to be a pretty good conversion rate. And so then when I come back and actually propose the solution to them, that's the third stage in my process. What's my close rate there? And what am I doing that might be driving that close rate down or that could drive that close rate up? What am I not doing that could drive it up? And so knowing your logical selling process, what you're closing for at every stage of that process, and what your success rate is kind of the starting point of innovating your sales process.
Yeah. Yeah. What are those things you're doing at each stage, and how can you tweak them, and what bits can you adjust and get better at? Makes absolute sense. Makes absolute sense. Love it. Oh, I reckon I could talk about innovation with you all day, but I'm aware the clock is time is gone.
Ticking
Time
away
is
is,
it's just flown.
partially that's because as we get older, time is smaller increment as well. And so
It's relativity, isn't it? It's
it's
relativity. We've
relative.
been around longer, so time is less relevant. Yeah.
Sure.
Or I could have been just having a load of fun talking to you. Could have been that as well. So if people want to talk to you more, or they want to understand a little bit more about what Innovation Junkies do, where can they get in touch? What's the best?
Yeah. So innovationjunkie.com to start. And then I'm very active on LinkedIn. So innovationjunkie.com, jeffstandridge.com, and then LinkedIn. So all of the three of those I'm pretty active on.
Cool. We'll pop those into the show notes so people can find them straight away. If they connect with you on LinkedIn, ask them to say that they heard you talk on here. Would be pretty cool.
That's right. We'll do that.
And oh no, brilliant, Jeff! Thank you so much for coming on and sharing some thoughts.
Fred, it's
been really useful.
It's been my pleasure, Fred. I appreciate the invitation, the opportunity, and wish you all the best.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the collaborative selling scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.